Episode 9 and 10 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is now out, and the season finale of this series. I thought it was a 14 episode series, but apparently I was wrong. It is only 10 episodes long. And what do I think about it? Honestly, honest to God, just go watch my Batman the Crusader video. If I could speak English here. Watch that video and then take what I say from that video and apply it to here with Spider-Man, and more or less it is the same thing that I talk about. It is literally the same problems I have. But before I continue, I will let you know I will be putting that video link in my comment section and also be putting it in my title card section so you can take a look and understand why I have an issue with this story. So episode 9 comes down. We are now finally heading off with the 101, finally making the first move. They're trying to stop Osborn's people from taking the Otto Octavius equipment to their location so they can have some firepower against the Scorpions. They were able to catch up, be able to stop the truck until the Scorpions come in. The battle between the 101 and the Scorpions go underhand. Big Donovan is now scared. He's not taken out like murked, but he is definitely, he runs off and he's being a coward, leaving our favorite character Lonnie Lincoln to go save the day. Once he enters the truck, he finds a canister which is accidentally cracked because of the impact of what was going on outside, and it spreads a gas, and guess what? Lonnie Lincoln now is Tombstone officially. Spider-Man swings through the city in his red and blue suit. Nico witnesses this as she's witnessing Spidey take on the 101 and the Scorpions because he saved her because she was listening to one of his voicemails, but she wasn't paying attention. So he saves her, moves her out of the way, and then she watches the battle ensue. Spider-Man and Tombstone more or less fight the Scorpion. Spider-Man getting the upper hand on Scorpion at first, then he kind of loses it. Scorpion tries to stab Tombstone, but he is unhurt because now he has the impenetrable skin, and they fight, take out Scorpion. At the end, before Spider-Man is able to finally land the final blow, due to the speech that Norman Osborn gives Peter Parker, Lonnie stops him because he doesn't want people to think Spider-Man is a bad person. And then afterwards, Spider-Man is met up with Nico. She finally understands and forgives him for not telling him a secret, which, okay. Episode 10. It is basically the finale. It is them, the apprentices, all coming together to see their projects all being put together in this massive thing, which, okay, that explains a lot. Only to find out that Norman is trying to open up a portal to another dimension using their projects. So now, more or less, Norman is showing that his little secret. But from what I gathered from this episode is that he seems like something's off. Something is not okay with Norman. Like he may have lost somebody because of the events of the Avengers. So now he's seeming like he's trying to prevent that from happening. So once he opens the portal, before Doctor Strange tries to stop him, which Doctor Strange is in this episode, when he opens the portal, the symbiote creature from the episode 1 comes in and then tries to attack basically Oscorp and the students and everybody. Spider-Man and Strange are able to fight the creature when Strange is hit by the creature and his time stone is activated, throwing him into a portal, which leads to the first episode. Yes, this is a time loop. So more or less, this is a different paradox with itself. It's how Spider-Man gets his spider powers, because what happened beforehand when Spider-Man was unconscious in episode 8, his blood was drawn to only be given to a spider, which that spider gets out of its cage and bites Peter in episode 1. I know I'm explaining that weird, but it makes sense, trust me. They fight, they save the day, they were able to throw the symbiote creature out, and at the end of the episode, more or less, Harry decides to open up his own program called Web. So it's going to take all the people that are kind of the heroes in the series and have them work under this new organization. And from that point on, we're kind of done with the series. Norman does find a bit of the symbiote, so we are going to most likely find out something that's going to have to deal with the symbiote saga. Otto Octavius gets thrown in jail. I was wrong on that. I'll eat my crow on this, but I was wrong. So Otto Octavius is going to go ahead and create his arms, and we'll be seeing that in the next season, most likely. We do see that some of the characters were working hand in hand with another character being Daredevil, and more or less being the insight person for Daredevil, now accepting the invite to be working with Webb to keep a close eye on Harry Osborn and make sure that everything's on the up and up with him as well. Nico, Harry, and Peter are now cool with each other. Everything's fine. Everything's good. The very end of the episode, Aunt May is going to a prison facility where we find out that Peter's dad is actually still alive, which, okay, all right. What else did I miss? I don't think I missed anything else. Oh, Lonnie Lincoln has finally decided to shed his good guy image and become Tombstone officially. He is now officially the bad guy. Hooray. What did I overall think about these two episodes? Well, like I said in my previous review for Batman the Caped Crusader, if they focused on these two episodes and put them at the beginning of the series, I'm telling you, my point of view for the series would be completely different than what it is right now. The series is still not great to me, but it is way better now, understanding that this is going to be something different. They should not have opened up with the origin scene. I've said this before and I'll say this again. The fact of the matter that the MCU Spider-Man and this Spider-Man's rip-off origin of Miles Morales' story is actually kind of lazy. I don't like that Spider-Man has just all these connections automatically. It leaves the character to be boring and with no agency. And that's the basic problem with this series. Peter has no agency. The focus on Lonnie Lincoln is actually almost reminiscent of the focus of Barbara Gordon in Batman the Caped Crusader. The same things. We focus on the characters that we are not here for. While we understand, yes, these characters are important, there is a way to do it, like how Spectacular Spider-Man did it, Ultimate Spider-Man did it, even the 90s series did it, where you can introduce those characters, but don't have them as the main focus and drive. Your main focus and drive should be Peter Parker. It should be Spider-Man, but that's not the case with this series. A lot of people came and kind of commented on my last videos saying that I was trying to be very hateful of this series, which I wasn't. The thing is, I always want to go into a series liking it. I want to see the best of a series. That's why I watch them. It's not because I want to have an immediate hate boner for them. I don't like taking the 5-star and the 1-star reviews for anything, because 5-star is just your bias and you just will not hear anything different, and 1-star means you're the same way. You're biased and you won't hear anything different. Once again, I disagree with people that call this show woke. I don't think this show is woke. It's not trying to beat you over the head with an overly political message. The only thing that I would say that it's annoying was the gender bending and the race swapping of certain characters. I've always stated this before. There are original characters that you could have used. You don't need to race swap and gender bend every character because you just feel lazy to do so. I'd rather have original characters than hand-me-down characters. The problem with Spider-Man in his whole is that Peter is not a character that moves the story forward. It's everybody else around him that moves the character forward. Look at the previous episodes. Until he was called to go see what was happening at Oscorp, he was just having a great day with Nico and Harry. The same way with a couple other events. He's pulled into the action. He's not actually looking for the action, whereas other Spider-Man are just web swinging in and go, oh, wow, look at that. While yes, this Peter is learning and he is trying to grow into being Spider-Man, which I wouldn't even say that's even an excuse, because even in the comic books, we see this character kind of have a good grasp of it. And once again, I go back to the comic books and say that I don't understand why the differences are between the writing of the comic and the writing of the show. In all honesty, I really do think that the prequel comic should have just been the series in its general whole. While I'm reading these comics, I'm seeing a lot of aspects where it feels like it's supposed to be Spider-Man. You see him struggle, you see him try to balance his life of being a superhero and being friends with Nico and with being a nephew to Aunt May. And it's so much more relatable in these 3 issues that have just been released than it has been through the entire series. So it just kind of makes me go and ask the question, if people are saying, well, it shouldn't be comic accurate, then what about these prequel comics that basically contradict this entire series? What do you say to that when they're in the same, supposedly in the same continuity, and it leaves problems for the rest of the series? While there are some things where we are starting to see Peter kind of slip up on, like he nearly didn't get his project turned in on time, a lot of it is still kind of the same thing. Everything is going his way, everything is sunshine and happy. While yes, I do agree that their episode 7, which traumatized him to be the way he was in episode 8, was kind of affecting him, by episode 9, he was good, he was ready, he was fighting. And yet again, I jump back to the prequel comics where you see him in the first panel of the first issue getting thrown off a building by what it looks like to be Hammerhead throwing him off the building. I mean, that's right there, that's very traumatic in itself. So to have this weird thing to show that he's being traumatized by what the events of what happened in episode 7, it really kind of says, did the writers of the series and the writers of the comic book talk with each other? Because it seems like it's 2 different worlds when it comes from your own prequel comics that's supposed to tie to the series to your show. Major thing that really gets me is just how capable this Spider-Man is in his own prequel comics. He doesn't need the help of Norman Osborn. He doesn't need the help of anybody else. He's able to think on the draw right there and right then. You see it in each one of the issues that he's able to think on his feet fast. So to have this whole thing in the series where he has to have a mentor character really kind of makes me go, what was the point of having Norman as the mentor character when, once again, so far in this series, that we are seeing that Peter's got a well handle on being Spider-Man in these first 3 issues than he's had throughout the entirety of the series of the show. So it just once again makes me ask the question, why did we make a prequel comic that basically counters the series? Because now, knowing that this prequel comic exists, it makes the series that much worse, especially not now knowing that we see this Peter actually able to figure things out, actually being able to be a teenager, actually showing his flaws, actually showing what he messes up, where he grows as a person, grows as a character. So what was the point of this series when you could just have adapted the comics and made the series? Here's the thing, when you see other Spider-Man and you see the other Spider-Man series in the comic books and the movies, you do see Peter having to struggle with those things, but at the same time, he learns to deal with them on his own. Spider-Man is the everyday man hero. Yes, he is the teenage superhero, which I get that. Everybody always brings that up. Anytime when I bring this up, they don't seem to always focus on the adult half. They only focus on the kid half. And it's kind of annoying to see that that's what we've been going back to, not only with this series, but the MCU and the Disney XD series. While this is technically a multiverse series, especially when you see Owatu at the very end of this, it makes you ask the question, what was the point of making this a multiverse series? Why couldn't they just do something different with the character? Why couldn't they just put episode 10 as the first episode or the third episode, and then you could have had a couple episodes kind of going over his origins, but more or less breaking down everything else. Not everything has to have an origin story. The Spectacular Spider-Man shows us, the 90s Spider-Man shows us, and the Ultimate Spider-Man shows us. You don't always have to start with his day one. Not every series we need to see a day one from the hero. It's just about as annoying as seeing Uncle Ben get shot and Bruce Wayne's parents get shot. I really wish they would have focused more on Spider-Man, in which episode 10, I really did feel was more of a Spider-Man centric episode, a Peter Parker Spider-Man centric episode. It felt more like, okay, this is what we wanted. So why didn't you just do that from the very beginning? This kind of leads me to my next part of this. Is just like, if we are to expect our entertainment to be better, we have to ask it to be better. We can't just sit there and just say, yeah, it was the most greatest thing ever. I'm not that guy. I'm sorry. I won't be that guy. I will never be that guy. I'm a person that wants to be entertained. Because as much as they want to claim that this is a kid series, this is really for Marvel fans that have been reading the comics for a long period of time, especially with the characters that they were introducing, Nico being from the Runaways, and the other characters that I mentioned in the first part of my review being from different franchises themselves. This is something that has been bothering me a lot lately, is that in the series or movies nowadays, Spider-Man cannot be on his own. He's got to be surrounded by characters that will eventually become heroes. It seems like people are afraid that you can't just watch a Spider-Man series without everybody else surrounding, and it's kind of bothersome, to be completely honest with you. I don't mind if you want to add the Marvel Universe, because that's how the Marvel Universe is, but just always remember that Spider-Man is the central character of his story, and he needs to be the central character of his story. But that's not what we did in this. We focused on everybody else besides Peter, and I think I understand why, because if you actually go back and look at this series, there's not much to offer for this character. Look at every moment that's in this series and actually ask yourself, be honest with yourself. Did Spider-Man or Peter Parker have any agency as the character himself? Did he actually do anything that was well represented of his character? Each moment he was justified in being right when he returned that robber that stole the money from the pizza place. Instead of it being like, oh, maybe she really wasn't having a hard time, she really is a criminal. No, he's justified and she's gone. We see that with later in the series, where we're told that there's certain things that happen with Peter, but we're never shown what happens with Peter. And that leaves you with a character that feels inactive in his own story. This is something that is very apparent with this series. It's like they wanted to save all the brutal parts for the second half of the series, just like Batman the Caped Crusader. Batman the Caped Crusader is the same thing. The first half of the series, there's nothing much to it until episodes 7, 8, 9, and 10. Funny enough, same thing with this series. 7, 8, 9, and 10 were the most impactful episodes. But the thing is, you shouldn't have to wait through 6 episodes to have something at the last half of the series. While I like the twist, and I will like to see what else they're going to do with this, especially with Peter Parker's dad, are they going to dive into the realms of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Peter Parker's dad? Or are they going to dive in the realms that he used to be a scientist for Osborn? What is the ramifications of why his dad's in jail? And I don't want them to save it till the end of the series. I want them to tell me mid-series or even in the early game, because we shouldn't have to wait that long to get the stories being told. And another thing that's frustrating about this is that we will probably have to wait a year and a half until we see this all unfold. I had a bunch of people saying that I was being too harsh on the series, and I just wanted to hate on it because of different reasons. Look, I'm not those type of people. I don't care if there's a black character or whatnot. Is it annoying that there are characters that are race swapped or gender bent? Yes, I will say that, and I will be completely honest with it. But it's not something I want to hate on. Spider-Man, people don't seem to understand, is that Spider-Man is one of my favorite characters, and he's everybody's favorite character, but he represents something to me that really resonates with me to my core. Spider-Man is a character that is somebody that tries to do the best at times, and he sometimes fails at times. And succeeding in being Spider-Man, he fails at being Peter Parker, and if succeeding being Peter Parker, he fails at being Spider-Man. The best example of this is the opening for the Insomniac Spider-Man 1 game, where we see Peter deciding whether he goes down there to talk to people about his rent situation or he saves the day. Which one is it? And he chose to save the day. And so as Spider-Man, he wrecked his life as Peter. Well, I wouldn't say wrecked. He basically, it hurt Peter. Another thing that is very apparent with him, you see in Spectacular Spider-Man when he's choosing whether or not to take the cure to cure him from being Spider-Man, because he keeps feeling like he's ruining everybody's life as either Peter or Spider-Man. So you see this teenager with this choice, this moment, only to realize that he is the best man for the job. And this is not something that's only wrestled in with one episode, it's wrestled in with multiple episodes. The duality of Spider-Man's character is what's so beautiful about him, and what makes him so unique is because no other characters really have that problem besides him. It's something that deals with two characters, because as much as people need Peter, people also need Spider-Man. And that's what's so cool about this. But when you have characters that get mad at you for having secret identities, or when you have moments where you're just doing great in life and you're just not showing me anything about this character, it does put a question to identity of Spider-Man. What is the purpose of this character when everything just works out for him in the end? All in all, what do I say about this series? Right now on Rotten Tomatoes, it is rating at a 71% for the audience, and it's rating at 7.2 for the IMDb score. My personal take, if they cut out the 6 episodes and actually expanded the 5 episodes that from the very end, this series could be pretty solid. But they decided not to, so this series is not. And I have to unfortunately rate this a 6.5 out of 10 or a 3.5 out of 5. Its potential is there. Maybe we'll see it in the second season. I don't know. And for the fact that they aren't able to give Peter challenges besides him putting his life in danger, which I'm not sitting here and saying that that isn't something that is not going to be traumatizing. But I am saying that doesn't define just the character. That's not the biggest revelations we can have with this character. We should have seen more with this character. We should have seen more that he could have overcame. But we didn't. We don't see this character overcome anything, because every time he's about to do something wrong, he's being told not to do it by other people. Not him, other people. So once again, this takes agency away from the character. So maybe they fix this in season 2, because there are 2 more seasons planned for this, which more or less it means it has 30 episodes originally slated, cut down to 10 episodes each. That's what it usually means when they say there's extra seasons. I.e., look at Velma, even though people claim it's because of hate watching, it's not because of hate watching. Usually companies and studios have a slate amount of episodes slated into seasons afterwards, and that's how it works from there. That's it for me, though, ladies and gentlemen. I do appreciate your time. I hope you're doing great out there. And at the end of the day, I appreciate your following. I appreciate the comments, even though they may disagree with me. I appreciate dislikes on my video, even though it's my opinion. I'm okay with that. You know, if I didn't put out my opinion, you know, it's more or less not going to get criticized. We're allowed to get criticized for our thoughts. We're allowed to get criticized for our opinions. But one thing I have definitely noticed with the Spider-Man fan base, especially if anything new Spider-Man, you can't criticize it. Look at Insomniac Spider-Man 2, for an example. Try to criticize that, and everybody rained fire on you until months later, people were like, yeah, Insomniac Spider-Man 2's story was not that great. It's like, oh, really? But needless to say, I am A-okay with this, and I love you guys. I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Oh, with great power must also come great responsibility.